Okay guys, so today we're going to be talking about the Wail. It's a legendary hand cannon from the future war cult, and it's something unique about this weapon outside of the normal hand cannons we tend to see, whether that's a Luna, a Lord Eye Fixer, a Pally, or whatever the case. The thing that stands out about this hand cannon is number one, it can't roll at reinforced or rifle barrel. Now, that normally rules out the usage of that hand cannon, right? For most of us, we go, okay, it doesn't roll with those range perks to maximize its range. It's useless. Well, turns out it actually isn't. It actually has better damage fall off than other hand cannons that do reach that max range cap. So let's talk about it today, man. Explosive rounds, Hammerforged rangefinders stacked on a Wail, and whether or not it can actually outperform our normal meta hand cannons. So if you watch my videos, man, I definitely have done a video before on explosive rounds, but it was on an eyasluna and it had explosive rounds. Now, the difference between the Wail and eyasluna is the Wail is much better because it can roll with a range perk, but also explosive rounds, whereas an eyasluna is stuck at base default range. And so you can only roll explosive rounds on it. You cannot roll a range perk in combination with it. And so immediately, I can tell you from the get-go, I can tell a Luna with explosive rounds, despite it having hidden hand and rangefinder tacked on with it, was a much weaker weapon at a distance. Even though, yes, damage fall off was still pretty solid, things were still going good in that sense. The aim assist values at a distance was almost non-existent. And you know, correcting yourself and getting used to that is something that would take time, and you can definitely do that. And I can tell you, coming from something like a Pally rocking out max range, it was difficult for me from the very beginning to kind of get used to and adjust it to that weapon. Now, the Wail doesn't seem to lose out at range so much. You know, even something as small as Hammerforged, in which we don't really assume to be that great of a range perk, is something that still closes the gap even closer in terms of making this weapon more competitive. So we talk about this weapon being competitive. We want it to be competitive, but is it actually competitive? I don't really think in my playstyle it fits, and that's really how I want to go ahead and explain this weapon. If I was to play with a Wail, I would go a completely different route than the Hammerforged rangefinder explosive rounds route. I would use it almost as my secondary weapon and rock out a sniper with it. That would be my combination. So it would be the Wail as almost like you would a last word, and I would rock that in combination with a sniper. Now, I wouldn't go the explosive rounds rangefinder Hammerforged route. I would go explosive rounds, small bore, luck in the chamber. Essentially the same thing Kamikaze rocks on his. I think that's the role that he's got, and that's what I would use pretty much all out, man. I mean, that would be my go-to set of perks right there in order to really maximize what this weapon does. It has the potential to truly flinch up people, and that's really good. But again, guys, at a distance, even though it's better than the eyasluna with explosive rounds, it still is not great. As in a Pally or a Luna with max range, rangefinder, it's still gonna beat you out at a certain distance, man. Just because they've got a factor there in the game helping them versus you working just off of your own gun skill. And not saying that you can't beat them out with your own gun skill, but you will be at a disadvantage in certain situations, whether they're moving, you know, whether they're crouching, whether they're jumping, whatever the case may be, you will be at a bit of a disadvantage, not having those little bitty factors helping you out. Well, guys, that's my thoughts on it, man. I honestly think that you should pick it up, though. I think out of all the Wail drops that I've seen come through, I think this is a really good, solid one, man. I think that you should try it out and see if explosive rounds, you know, at the distance game is something that you can grow accustomed to. Me personally, I am so hung up on my Pally that's just what I use week in, week out, and that's just something I've grown accustomed to. Now, this might be a weapon that you grow accustomed to, and the Wail might be like your go-to weapon. Who's who knows? It really takes you having to pick it up and try it out for yourself. Now, me mentioning that the small bore explosive rounds luck in the chamber routes is the way I would go is simply meaning that I would adjust my playstyle to fit that weapon, and that would be using it almost like you would how year 2, year 1 people used to use last word sniper combo, right? And I would essentially do the same thing with the Wail, except for lowering that max size with small bore, making you be able to take advantage of luck in the chamber quite often, having the flinch potential of explosive rounds, and rocking out a sniper for your long game situations. I think that's really a great route to go. I think Cammy was really onto something, man, when he uses that often, and I think that's a really good set of perks to be trying to rock out on the Wail. Outside of that, though, if you're wanting to rock this as a full-time primary, it's going to require you to really get accustomed to the weapon itself. And it's not really the recoil pattern that I'm talking to. It's just outside of a certain range, you will see drop off in aim assist quite drastically, and you're going to have to get a little used to that. But it does offer flinch potential, and that is something that is pretty nice. You'll see at times you'll win 1v1 situations just because of explosive rounds. So guys, that's my thoughts on it, man. Try it out for yourself. If you enjoyed this video, definitely slap that like button. Guys, thank you so much for coming and watching. I'm going to be streaming probably later today. We'll be doing Dark Souls. We just finished up Bloodborne last night. Super fun, man. Great ending. So come out and watch us play some Dark Souls. We die a lot, man. It's just a lot of fucking death, guys. So fellas, I'll catch y'all later. Slap that like button like your mama told you right.
One time I tell 'em I'm California dreaming.